Welcome to Tax Bites for Expats, the top tax tips you want to know as an expat. The podcast is here to help answer the common queries and concerns expats have when moving to or from Ireland. Complex taxes explained simply. We'll focus on the Irish and international tax issues to be aware of to ensure you save time, money, and stress.
Avoid the hassle of dealing with your bank and transfer online, by app or over the phone or Currencies Direct today. Keep listening for an exclusive offer for Tax Bites for Expats listeners, and thanks to Currencies Direct for their support of this podcast. Hi everybody, welcome to this episode of Tax Bites for Expats. Today we're going to do an episode that some of our listeners have requested, and that is that we're going to speak to an existing client of ours who has made the move to Ireland and who has very kindly offered to come on and talk to us about her experience, her learnings, and the things that she's taken away from having made the big decision to come back to Ireland. So our client is Michele Coleman. She's an Irish citizen who has spent more than 30 years working in the UK as a teacher. And not so long ago, she made the decision to come back to Ireland. Her story is nuanced because, for tax planning reasons that we won't go into massively today, Michele splits her time between Ireland and the UK. But she's in a very strong position to be able to share her experiences of her move to date. Michele, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us. We really appreciate it. I think we're going to have a really good chat.
No, I'm very happy to do it. Really, really happy to do it. So, especially if it helps anybody, coming back. So, yeah.
I've given you an intro there, Michele, but it'd be lovely if people understood a little bit more about you, about why you went to the UK, your life there, your career there, and then, maybe your reasons for coming back to Ireland after such a long period spent in the UK.
I initially went over because I went to college there, to university, in order to do a PE degree, because I wanted to become a PE teacher. Now, at the time in Ireland, there was something like only 2 universities, and there were something like, there was one up north and one in Limerick, as we all know, but I know there's more now, that did, PE. And trying to get in there to either of these was just would have been a nightmare. There was something like, for 30 places that the applications were just off the scale, because they were the only 2. So the only option I had was to go to the UK. And note, I went back to university as a mature student. So I was 26. I'd already worked within banking and everything else in Ireland. And then managed to get redundancy. So I thought, why not? Let's do this now. So, so that was when I was 26. I made that move, and I ended up going to West Sussex, and I did my 4-year degree there. And the plan was never to stay there. The plan was to come back.
Yeah.
And then they said but just do your year, what we call NQT year, which is gives you have to do that to prove that, you were in a school, you've trained, you've done your year and passed that year. So decided to do that, and then obviously ended up staying. So I spent all my time mostly in Surrey, and then in mainstream secondary, working as a PE teacher. Then I became a head of year, then went into senior management. So the opportunities are very different. Certainly at the time, compared to my own education in the Irish system. They were just different, bigger schools as well, because, let's face it, what is there, something like 68 million here, in the UK. So, I had fantastic opportunities, actually. Went from being a PE teacher to middle manager to senior manager, then eventually went into specialist teaching, special education. Stayed there for a number of years, then came out and became a consultant, working within special and mainstream schools for special educational needs. And that allowed me to then set up schools for special education for children with special ed. This was while I was working with consultancy with other head teachers. So we opened up a school for children with speech and language. Then I went on and opened up another what we call a resource base attached to a mainstream school for high functioning girls with autism. And so that's sort of it very much in a nutshell as to what I've been doing. And I'm still involved. I'm on the board of trustees for a couple of special schools. So I'm still very much involved with special educational needs. My PE sort of, went to the side, but yeah, it's been the opportunities for me to do that here in the UK, because that's where I am at the moment, have been amazing. Really, really amazing. And I know I wouldn't have had the same opportunities just because of the system and how the system is over here compared to Ireland.
You've had a very successful career, and obviously what you've described there is fantastic opportunities. Obviously, now Ireland calls, but in that 30-year period, did your heart ever turn towards coming back, or was it just life is happening and,
Oh, constantly, always wanted to go back. And in fairness, I have every half term, I would be in Ireland. So my connections there were very strong always. My friends were still there, my school friends, obviously family. So I had always got this thing that I always wanted to go back. I wanted to buy a place and I wanted to go back. I did not want to, live out my time in the UK. So there was always that sort of yearning to go back. And then obviously, because I'm more or less sort of retired, even though I'm still doing work for schools, but mostly for, it's only special educational needs and working with parents of children whose children have got SEN. I got to the point where, sadly, my partner died about 6 years ago. And I, at that point, thought, okay, I'll hang on, and but I'm definitely going to go back. So I started looking at properties in Ireland for quite some time because I'd always done that. And I sort of stopped for a while because obviously the prices of the properties in Ireland, I'm watching it go up and up. You're like, oh my God, Anyway, in the end, I'd stopped looking. And then, I don't know, just before Christmas 2023, I just happened to go, I don't know whether it was who I went on with, but one of the property, the property people. And I saw a place which I had seen a year previous and put in an offer. And it was accepted, and I wasn't even in the country. I was in Spain with my Irish girlfriends.
Wow, brilliant.
Yeah, I sent my sister around to have a look.
So you hadn't actually viewed it in person. This is brilliant. That speaks to something though. You were really drawn back. What was the
Yeah, I
pull?
was. Yeah, just the people, the family connections. Yeah, and that's not to say I have had a very good life in the UK, a very good life, and I know that my career and all that I've done. I know the opportunities wouldn't have been the same in Ireland. And again, I can go back to how the systems are structured within education in Ireland compared to the UK. I did try. I did go back once, actually. I did go back for a year and I worked in a school. And that's how I knew that the system wasn't really, it wasn't geared for what I was able to do compared to the UK. And in the end, I ended up going back. So I did go back to Ireland for a year and about 1995. So but the draw was always to come back. And I've always kept those friendships. So I would go home and I'm one of these people, I sort of will organize, I'll call them up. I'm on my way back and we'll all go out and and it's mostly school friends. We'd all been in school since we were 4 or 5, the majority of us. So, and we're all still friends. So they're still there. Yeah, so there was that drawback, and I had friends here, but not the same as when you're sort of from a place, people who know you. You don't have to explain who you are. It was great. But like in saying that, the UK, I've made some really really good connections, some good friends here, and I've never felt anything but welcomed here.
Yeah. And now a quick word on our episode sponsor, Currencies Direct. If you're looking for a fast, easy way to transfer money to or from Ireland without the hassle and cost of dealing with your bank, keep it simple with Currencies Direct. Whether you're buying property or require regular currency transfers, Currencies Direct can help you save money. As a special offer for our listeners, when you use the link in the show notes and quote expat taxes when registering with Currencies Direct, you'll receive a €50 one-for-all or Amazon voucher when you transfer €5,000 or more in your first 6 months with Currencies Direct. Registration is quick and easy, and you decide how you transfer 24/7 via their online money transfer service, over the phone with one of their friendly experts, or by using their handy mobile app. Check the show notes or head to currenciesdirect.com to register, and thanks to Currencies Direct for the support of this podcast. I listened to you talk, actually, it's just kind of resonating with me. Everyone's experience is different, but what you're describing is, from a career perspective, a really strong pull to the UK, but from an emotional perspective, that your heart is kind of in Ireland. And I often wonder, as Irish people, are we overly nostalgic about Ireland, or is there something about it? Now, I personally believe that Ireland is a special place, and that's why Irish people are drawn back to it. Were you conflicted over the 30 years? Was your decision, were you ever kind of, were you happy to stay in your lane until you got your retirement? Or is it like what it is for most expats, that just time passes and you go, okay, when's the natural junction that I can go back?
I always had this thing to go back, and my late partner, he loved Ireland, and obviously, he was English. He had sort of a family all came from Ireland, over the years. But I could never quite get him to to make that shift, and so I knew that when he went, I thought, well, now is my time to go back,
Yeah.
because because that's where my heart was. And yeah, so it was always there, always to go back. And I couldn't see myself. I even said, God, if anything happens, I say to my sister, if anything happens to me here, make sure, I said, that that you take my ashes back to Ireland, and put them on the Three Rock Mountain so I can watch the whole of Dublin. So that was always, so
Yeah.
I never sort of lost that. Yeah, I never lost it. And it wasn't rose tinted either, because I would go back so often. I'd go back every 7 weeks to
You knew
Ireland. Yeah, 7, yeah.
the
Yeah,
reality.
so, yeah. Well, yes and no. I did know. I did know. Then when I did make the move, it was what you knew was sort of like the reality of it was like, oh, okay. Yes.
What was that like, Michelle? So you're watching from afar, you're going back on a holiday, and then you go to move. Talk us through the logistics of what that looked like. You're back in a system that you haven't been in for many, many years.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I think they're not many negatives at all, in terms of, it's mostly all pluses. I'd say the negatives will be the traffic in Ireland. The traffic in Dublin is an absolute nightmare. Oh my God. And because they just keep building, and you're like, oh no, what about the roads? You can't, where are you going to put all these cars, which obviously you put them, it's just like a car park for the most part, on a number of the roads. Irish drivers, that perhaps would be the major negatives. But the other thing is that you realize that here in the UK, due to the largeness of it, okay, you have access to everything close by to you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, whether it's medical, whether it's just going to, something that, that's sort of similar to the Dundrum Centre. You've got a couple, you'll always have something within your own area. You don't have to go that far to get access to it. And there's lots in Dublin, even though it has grown unbelievable and has changed, you still do not have that same access, as quickly as that. For me to go to a chiropractor, it takes me half an hour to get to the chiropractor that I need to go to. It's like, well, that's, I go up the road, it's 5 minutes, So.
We always laugh about this because my grandparents live in the UK, and my husband and I, we often joke because to them, they live on the Wirral in northwest
Right.
of
Yeah.
England. And Chester is a beautiful Roman city, which you may be familiar with, is about 30 minutes in the car. But I always remember it was as if Chester was really far away from where they are. And we joke about it now because us half an hour, I drive 30 minutes to go for a sea swim, and then I'd come back and bring my kids to school. And it's like 30 minutes is nothing. Just the concept of both time and distance seems to be different. So what you're explaining here is the lived experience of that when you come from the UK back to Ireland, that must be reflected in the pace of life. What's different day to day when you make that transition?
Absolutely. The pace of life in Ireland is still, and I'm talking, I'm obviously in Dublin. Okay. The pace of life is still much slower than it is it's manic. It is, and I'm living out sort of Surrey wise. When I was going up into doing the consultancy work, and I would be working 5 days a week, and I'd be going to different schools in London, I would be on that train at sometimes 6:30 in the morning. The train is packed, and it would have come from down south. So those people would already have been on at 6:00 on a train into Waterloo. And it's just that nonstop, go. And I know COVID changed a lot of things, okay, definitely. But it's certainly the pace is greater. There are more people around. There's not that sense of it's busier. Even though Dublin is busy, I know Dublin is busy, and it's such a vibrant city. The people make Dublin and make Ireland. The people, without a doubt, because it doesn't matter who you are, they will stop and they will talk to you.
Mm. Is it not like that in the UK?
Not in the southeast. No.
Okay.
Up north, Chester, Liverpool, all are north of, north. You get they are very different. They will talk to you. They will stop. They will have a chat. But southeast, and it's I mean, look, it's known to be sort of that sort of wealthier sort of to be in the southeast,
conservative.
Yes.
More culturally, just a cultural difference. That's what that is.
Oh, totally. It is. It is so different. Whereas in Ireland, everybody has it's the same. The people are amazing.
I had experienced it recently, and it's obviously like it's a moment in time. It's not representative of day-to-day life. I did the Dublin City Marathon. Oh, I was blown away. And somebody said to me, they said, wait till you do it. Dublin City Marathon is one of the best in the world. And to me, it was just a very long run that was going to feel incredibly painful. So it didn't matter where I was doing it. But it was true, because just the reception that we got, we literally had 300,000 people standing on the streets. They were handing us jellies. They were making sausages outside their house. They were offering us pints of Guinness as we ran past. And it hit me because I've done events in different locations, not like, many marathons, but it hits differently here. And it's hard to say that as an Irish person without feeling that you're a little bit biased, but it's not biased because other people from abroad and our clients tell us that, we don't come here for the weather. We don't come here because the infrastructure is world class. So why do we come back? Why do we come back?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an instance. I was out shopping yesterday, and I was with my partner, my new partner. He by the way, he's extremely British. Sort of, as my sister said, I think we might need to do something about his accent. It's very posh. And I'm going, I don't know how that's going to fit in Ireland. But anyway, he just loves the Irish. He loves the banter. He said, it's the warmth of the people. It's, they'll just talk to you. We were both shopping yesterday. We walked out and there was this man singing, right? Okay. And we walked away, and a lady literally standing beside us had obviously, overheard us. I said, he has got a voice, I said, but look at the state of him in what he was in, right? Now, this lady had to move away from him. She said, oh my God, she goes, my head, that's my head. And I was like, okay, this is normal, for somebody to, join us with the conversation. And as the more she went on, she started telling us a story about, her sister or whatever, her daughter and somebody else standing there. And it was a really funny story. And it was one that you would not expect the English to, to say. And I'm looking at her and I'm going, I bet anything there is Irish. I bet anything. Now, her accent was quite, her accent was quite sort of, English or Anglified. Anyway, she turns around to me and she goes, are you from Ireland? And I went, yeah. And she goes, I'm from Navan.
Wow.
But I said, I knew it. I knew you had to be, because she said, no, she says the English don't tend to talk to you like we do they? And she actually, which is something that we as Irish tend to do, I don't know if people notice it, when we're talking, we'll touch.
Yes.
We'll touch the person. Yeah. She did that to me and I went, there's got to be Irish. And that's when she eventually said, are you from Ireland? But it was that chat. And that's what you don't get, certainly not in the Southeast. But that's what you get in Ireland. And that's what you miss. It's that sense of just
that's community
or chat. Yes.
It's interaction. Yeah. I think we live in a time now where we have, what you've described, and this is, there's pros and cons, but everywhere, there's nowhere is perfect at all. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But ultimately it's that connection, it's that feeling of community. Science supports the fact that those day-to-day interactions have a direct positive influence on our mental health. And we saw that during COVID when we couldn't have them. And, I think even my brother was back from Texas recently, and he kind of just sat down with his pint of Guinness in a pub, and he just kind of looked at us and went, wow, there was no hard sell at the bar. Like, somebody wasn't trying to sell me something. I just bought my pint. I'm here to have a chat. Ireland culturally is very different to other English-speaking countries, and that's and every country is different in its own way.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Tax Bites for Expats. Please do leave a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast. And as always, remember to take professional tax advice specific to your personal circumstances before acting or refraining from action in connection with the matters dealt with in this series. The material in this podcast is intended to give general guidance only.